Hana pressed her fingers against her temples as the strange sound filled her headphones. She had been working the night shift at the Deep Space Monitoring Station for 3 years, but she had never heard anything like this before. The sound was broken and weak, but it was definitely trying to say something. The monitoring station floated in empty space at the edge of human territory. Its job was simple: listen for any signals that might mean trouble. Most nights were quiet. Ships would check in, report their positions, and move on. Tonight was different. Hana turned up the volume and listened again. The signal was coming from very far away, much farther than any human ship had ever traveled. She saved the recording and called her supervisor. "Captain Do-hyun, you need to hear this," she said into her communicator. Captain Do-hyun arrived at her station within minutes. He was a serious man who had spent 20 years in the space service. His gray hair was always perfectly neat, and he never smiled unless something was very good or very bad. "Play it," he said. The broken signal filled the room. It was definitely not human. The sounds were too strange, too musical. But underneath all the strange noises, there was something else. Fear. Raw. Desperate fear. "How long have you been receiving this?" Do-hyun asked. "About an hour. It keeps repeating the same pattern every few minutes." Do-hyun listened to the signal 3 more times. Each time his face grew more serious. Finally, he stood up straight and activated the emergency communication system. "This is Captain Do-hyun of Monitoring Station Vigilance. I need an immediate connection to Earth Defense Command. Priority Alpha." The connection took several minutes to establish. When Admiral Kiwan's face appeared on the screen, he looked tired. It was early morning on Earth, and the Admiral had clearly been sleeping. "This better be important, Captain," Kiwan said. "Sir, we have received what appears to be an alien distress signal. It's coming from the Kepler 442 system." Admiral Kiwan was suddenly very awake. In all of human space exploration, they had found empty planets, dead civilizations, and ancient ruins, but they had never found living aliens sending messages. "Send me everything you have," the Admiral ordered. While Hana prepared the files for transmission, Captain Do-hyun explained what they knew. The signal was definitely artificial. It was too organized to be natural, and it repeated the same pattern, over and over. Most importantly, it was coming from a star system that the Galactic Consortium had marked as extremely dangerous. The Galactic Consortium was a group of alien civilizations that humans had discovered 5 years earlier. They were friendly enough, but they treated humans like children. They shared some technology and information, but they made it clear that humans were too young and too violent to be trusted with important secrets. "The consortium has that entire region marked as a no-travel zone," Do-hyun continued. "They won't tell us why, but their ships won't go anywhere near it." Admiral Kiwan studied the star charts on his screen. Kepler 442 was over 300 light-years from Earth. It would take months for any human ship to reach it, even with their fastest engines. "I'm sending this to our best language experts," the Admiral said. "Keep monitoring that signal. If it changes or stops, I want to know immediately." 3 days later, linguist Mina finally made sense of the alien message. She had worked with dozens of alien languages from the consortium archives, but this one was completely new. It had taken her computer systems 72 hours of analysis to find patterns in the sounds. The translated message was short and terrifying. "This is the last beacon of the Villani people. Our worlds burn. Our children die. The Iron Swarm has come to our system. They take everything. They leave nothing. We are a peaceful people. We have no weapons. We have no soldiers. In 7 cycles, we will be gone. If anyone receives this message, please remember that we existed. Please remember that we tried to live in peace." The message repeated every few minutes, exactly the same each time. Captain Do-hyun read the translation 3 times before he fully understood what it meant. Somewhere in space, an entire alien civilization was being destroyed. They were peaceful people with no way to defend themselves, and they were going to die. Admiral Kiwan called an emergency meeting of the Earth Defense Council. The 12 most important people in human space gathered in the council chamber on Earth. Some attended in person. Others appeared as holograms from distant planets. "We have confirmed alien contact," Admiral Kiwan announced, "and they are in serious trouble." He played the translated message for the council. The room was completely silent when it finished. Counselor Soman was the first to speak. She was young for a council member, only 45, but she was known for asking difficult questions. Admiral, what exactly are you asking us to do? This signal is coming from 300 light-years away. Even if we sent our entire fleet, it would take months to get there. These aliens will be dead long before we arrive. That's not necessarily true, Admiral Kiwan replied. We don't know how long they can hold out, and we don't know what this iron swarm is. Maybe we can help. Counselor Park shook his head. He was an old man who had lived through the resource wars on Earth. Admiral, we have our own problems. The colony on New Sol is still having food production issues. The mining stations around Jupiter need more protection ships. We can't waste our military on aliens we've never met. But what if this iron swarm decides to come to our territory next? Asked Counselor Kim. She was the youngest member of the council, and she often thought about long-term problems. If they can destroy an entire alien civilization, what happens when they find us? The debate continued for hours. Some council members thought humans should focus on their own problems. Others believed that helping aliens in trouble was the right thing to do. A few worried that getting involved might make humans a target for this iron swarm. Admiral Kiwan listened to all the arguments, but his mind was already made up. He had spent his entire life in the military, and he understood, something that most council members did not. When someone asked for help, good people tried to help. It was that simple. Council members, he said finally, I am asking for permission to mobilize our deep space fleet. Not just a few ships, but everything we can spare. These aliens are dying, and we might be the only ones who can save them. The room erupted in arguments. Some council members shouted that it was impossible. Others demanded to know how much it would cost. A few asked if Admiral Kiwan had lost his mind. Through all the noise, the alien message kept playing in the background. The same desperate words, over and over again. Please remember that we existed. Please remember that we tried to live in peace. Finally, Council President Hyun called for order. He was the oldest member of the council, and when he spoke, everyone listened. Admiral Kiwan, he said slowly, you are asking us to send our military to fight an unknown enemy, in unknown space, to save aliens we have never met. The risk is enormous, the cost will be huge, and we might lose everything. Yes, sir, Admiral, Kiwan replied. I am asking for exactly that. President Hyun looked around the room at the other council members. Then he looked back at Admiral Kiwan. Why? He asked simply. Admiral Kiwan thought for a moment. Then he pointed at the speakers, where the alien message was still playing. Because, sir, if we don't help them, who will? The Earth Defense Council meeting had been going for 6 hours. Admiral Kiwan sat at the head of the long table, watching as the council members argued about the alien distress signal. Some wanted to help, others thought it was too dangerous, and a few believed humans should mind their own business. Counselor Soman stood up and pointed at the display screen showing the star charts. Admiral, you're asking us to send thousands of people to die for aliens we know nothing about. What if this is a trap? What if these Villani are lying to us? The signal analysis shows no signs of deception, Admiral Kiwan replied. Our computers have checked it hundreds of times. Computers can be fooled, Counselor Park added. And even if these aliens are telling the truth, what can we do against something called the Iron Swarm? We don't even know what we're fighting. Captain Jae-won cleared his throat. He had been sitting quietly in the corner, listening to the arguments. As a veteran of the Proxima Wars, he understood combat better than most people in the room. Council members, may I share some information that might change your thinking? President Hyun nodded. Go ahead, Captain. Jae-won activated his personal data pad and sent files to everyone's screens. 3 months ago, my intelligence team discovered something interesting about this iron swarm. They're not new. They've been destroying civilizations for thousands of years. The room became very quiet. Jae-won continued. We found references to them in old consortium databases. The Zephyrians lost 12 colonies to them 800 years ago. The Crystalline Empire lost their entire outer rim 1,200 years ago. Every time, the pattern is the same. The Iron Swarm appears, demands surrender, and then destroys everything. That's exactly why we shouldn't get involved, Counselor Soman said. If they're that powerful, we'll just be throwing our people away. Captain Jae-won smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. That's where you're wrong, counselor. You see, there's something special about humans that none of you seem to understand. He changed the display to show Earth's history. Pictures of ancient wars, natural disasters, and human survival flashed across the screen. Every other species in the galaxy evolved on what they call garden worlds, beautiful planets with gentle weather, plenty of food, and very few dangers. Their civilizations grew up in peace and safety. The display changed to show Earth, storms, earthquakes, volcanoes, ice ages, and prehistoric predators. Earth is what the consortium classifies as a Class 12 death world. Almost everything on our planet has tried to kill us at some point. We survived ice ages that would have destroyed other species. We lived through asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions, and plagues that killed millions. Dr. Hee-jin, the head of xenobiology research, nodded in agreement. Captain Jae-won is correct. I've studied the biology of every species in the consortium. Humans are physically stronger, faster, and more resistant to damage than any other known intelligent species. But more importantly, we think differently. What do you mean? Asked Counselor Kim. Dr. Hee-jin stood up and activated her own presentation. Other species solve problems by avoiding conflict or negotiating. When they face a threat they can't handle, they surrender or run away. It's logical behavior for species that evolved in safe environments. The screen showed brain scans comparing human neural activity to other alien species. Humans are different. When we face a threat we can't handle, we get angry. We fight harder. We take bigger risks. We'd rather die fighting than live as slaves. The other species think this is insane. Admiral. Ki-won leaned forward in his chair. Dr. Hee-jin, what you're describing sounds like you think we're naturally violent. Not violent, Admiral. We're naturally survivors. There's a difference. Violence is about hurting others. Survival is about protecting what matters to you. No. Matter the cost. Captain Jae-won added more information to his presentation. I've been developing something called the Deathworld Doctrine. It's a new way of thinking about human military capabilities. The screen showed tactical comparisons between human military strategies and those used by consortium species. Every civilization that the Iron Swarm has defeated used conventional military tactics. Standoff battles, defensive positions, surrender when the situation becomes hopeless. They fight like they're playing a game with rules. And humans don't? President Hyun asked. No, sir. Humans fight like everything we care about is about to die because that's how we evolved. We use tactics that other species consider crazy or impossible. We sacrifice individual ships to save the fleet. We ram enemy vessels with our own. We fight in environments that would kill most aliens. Dr. Hee-jin added, I've run computer simulations based on Iron Swarm tactics from previous battles. Against consortium species, they win 100% of the time. Against humans using Deathworld Doctrine tactics, the results are very different. How different? Admiral Ki-won asked. In 60% of the simulations, humans win. In 30%, both sides are destroyed. In only 10% do the machines achieve total victory. The room was silent for several minutes. Finally, Counselor Park spoke up. These are just computer simulations. Real battles are more complicated. You're right, Captain Jae-won agreed. Real battles are more complicated. They're messier, more confusing, and more unpredictable. Those are exactly the conditions where humans perform best. Admiral Ki-won stood up and walked to the large window that showed Earth in the distance. Council members, I need to tell you something that might make this decision easier. He turned back to face the room. The Iron Swarm's expansion pattern suggests they'll reach human space within 50 years, maybe sooner. We can fight them now, while we have allies and time to prepare, or we can fight them later when they're stronger and we're alone. What allies? Counselor Soman asked. The consortium won't help us. They've made that clear. The Vellani might help us, if we save them. And there might be other species out there who are tired of running and hiding. But we'll never know if we don't try. Dr. Hee-jin activated one final display. I want to show you something else. The Iron Swarm has never encountered a species like humans. Their tactics are based on fighting logical, predictable enemies. But humans aren't logical when we're protecting something important. The screen showed psychological profiles of humans under extreme stress. When humans are afraid for their families or their homes, our brain chemistry changes. We become stronger, faster, and more resistant to pain. We ignore injuries that would stop other species. We continue fighting even when victory seems impossible. Other species call this battle madness, Captain Jaewon added. They think it's a mental illness, but it's actually our greatest military advantage. President Hyun looked around the room at the other council members. So what you're telling us is that humans are naturally better at war than any other known species? Not better at war, Admiral Kiwon corrected. Better at survival. And sometimes survival requires fighting for others who can't fight for themselves. The debate continued for another hour, but the new information had changed everyone's thinking. The council members who had opposed the mission began asking different questions. Instead of should we go, they started asking, how can we succeed? Finally, President Hyun called for a vote. All in favor of authorizing Operation Lifeline? 7 hands went up. All opposed? 5 hands went up. The motion passes, President Hyun announced. Admiral Kiwon, you have authorization to mobilize the Deep Space Fleet. Admiral Kiwon felt a mix of relief and responsibility. Thank you, Council. I won't let you down. As the council members filed out of the room, Captain Jaewon approached the Admiral. Sir, there's one more thing I need to tell you about the Death World Doctrine. What's that, Captain? It only works if humans actually care about what they're fighting for. Our people need to believe that saving these aliens is worth risking their lives. Admiral Kiwon nodded. That's why I'm going to tell them the truth. We're not just saving the Vellani, we're showing the galaxy that some things are worth fighting for. And if the crews don't agree, Admiral Kiwon smiled. Captain, I've served with human crews for 30 years. When they understand that innocent people are dying and we're the only ones who can help, they won't hesitate. That's what makes us human. The massive dreadnought Indomitable led a fleet of 2,000 human ships through hyperspace toward the Vellani system. Admiral Kiwon stood on the bridge, watching the stars blur past at impossible speeds. 3 months had passed since the Council approved Operation Lifeline, and every day brought them closer to the unknown. Chief Diplomat Yoonji worked at her station nearby, still struggling with the Vellani language. She had made progress since Mina's first translation, but alien languages were incredibly difficult. Every species thought differently, and their words often meant things that didn't exist in human experience. Admiral, called Communications Officer Taman, we're receiving another transmission from the Vellani. It's much stronger now. Put it through the translation system, Admiral Kiwon ordered. The bridge speakers filled with musical sounds that the computer slowly turned into words. This is current singer of the deep waters. Human ships, we detect your approach. We are grateful beyond expression, but you must understand. The Iron Swarm has taken 7 of our 12 cities. Our people hide in the deep ocean trenches. We do not know how long we can survive. Yoonji looked up from her workstation. Admiral, they're asking us to hurry, but they're also trying to warn us about something. The translation system is having trouble with their fear concepts. What do you mean? The Vellani language has dozens of different words for fear, but they all seem to be about natural things. Storms, deep water, predators. They don't have words for the kind of fear that comes from war or violence. It's like they've never experienced it before. Captain Do-hyun, who had transferred from the monitoring station to join the fleet, shook his head in amazement. How does a species develop space travel without ever fighting wars? The same way they developed everything else, Dr. Hyejin replied, from her science station. Very carefully and very peacefully. According to the consortium databases, the Vellani have never had a violent conflict in their entire recorded history. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Vellani system. What they saw took everyone's breath away. The Vellani homeworld was almost entirely ocean, with only a few small islands visible from space. But floating on the water's surface were 12 enormous cities that looked like living organisms. They were made of some kind of coral-like material that grew in beautiful spirals and curves. Lights moved through the structures like blood through veins. My God, whispered Admiral Kiwon. They're beautiful. Lieutenant Bora, the fleet's best reconnaissance specialist, was already analyzing the planet with long-range sensors. Admiral, I'm detecting massive technology signatures, but they're unlike anything in our databases. These cities appear to be partially alive. What do you mean, alive? They're growing, sir. The structures are actually reproducing and repairing themselves. The Villani don't build their cities. They grow them. Chief Diplomat Yunji established a direct communication link with the planet. Within minutes, the main screen showed their first live alien contact. The being on the screen was nothing like humans had imagined. It looked somewhat like a cross between a dolphin and an octopus, with smooth gray skin and 8 flexible arms. Its eyes were large and dark, and it moved through what appeared to be a water-filled chamber. "I am Tidal Singer, prime current of the Villani people," the alien said through the translation system. "You are the humans who answered our call for help." Admiral Kaiwan stepped forward. "I am Admiral Kiwan of the Terran Defense Fleet. We received your distress signal and came as quickly as we could." Tidal Singer's large eyes studied the Admiral carefully. "We have studied your species through the Galactic Consortium databases. You are very young, but you are also very unusual." "How so?" "You have traveled 300 light-years to help strangers. This is not behavior we understand. In our studies of galactic civilizations, species only risk themselves for their own people or for profit. You gain nothing by helping us." Admiral Kiwan felt a strange sadness hearing this. "Tidal Singer, we help because it's the right thing to do. When someone asks for help, good people try to help." The alien's reaction was surprising. All 8 of its arms moved in complex patterns, and the translation system indicated strong emotional distress. "Admiral Kiwan, we must tell you something important. We have no weapons. We have no military forces. We have never fought a war. We do not even understand what war means. How can you possibly help us against the Iron Swarm?" Dr. Hyejin moved closer to the screen. "Tidal Singer, may I ask you about your people's history? Have you never faced any kind of conflict?" "Conflict is a concept we do not understand, Dr. Hyejin. When Villani disagree, we sing together until harmony is found. When resources become scarce, we share more carefully. When natural disasters threaten us, we adapt our cities and move to safer waters." Captain Jaewon joined the conversation. "What did you do when you first encountered other alien species?" "We offered to share our knowledge and resources. Most species are friendly when approached with peaceful intentions. But what about species that aren't friendly?" Tidal Singer's arms moved in a pattern that the computer translated as extreme confusion. "We do not understand the question. All intelligent species are reasonable when treated with respect and kindness." The humans on the bridge looked at each other in amazement. These aliens literally could not understand the concept of intentional violence between intelligent beings. Admiral Kiwan realized they were dealing with something unprecedented. "Tidal Singer, we need to understand what we're facing. Tell us about the Iron Swarm." The alien's entire body color changed to a darker shade. "They arrived in our system 47 cycles ago. Their ships are like nothing we had ever seen. Dark, angular, with no beauty or life. They sent us a message demanding that we surrender all our resources and submit to their control. What did you do?" "We tried to negotiate. We offered to share our resources freely, as we do with all species. We explained that we have no concept of ownership or control. Everything we have belongs to everyone." "And how did they respond?" "They began destroying our outer cities immediately. They take everything, the metal from our structures, the minerals from our ocean floor, even the organic matter from our people. They convert it all into more ships and weapons." Lieutenant Bora had been monitoring her sensors during the conversation. "Admiral," she said urgently, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures approaching from the outer system. Multiple contacts, moving in perfect formation." Admiral Kaiwan turned to the screen. "Tidal Singer, you need to get your people to safety immediately. The Iron Swarm is almost here." "We are already hiding in the deep ocean trenches," the alien replied. "But Admiral, you must understand. We counted their ships when they first arrived. There are over 50,000 of them. You have brought 2,000. How can you possibly succeed?" Captain Jaewon answered before the Admiral could speak. "Tidal Singer, your people survived because you learned to adapt to your environment. Humans survived because we learned to fight our environment. Sometimes fighting is the only way to protect what matters. But fighting means violence. Violence means causing harm to other intelligent beings. How can this be acceptable?" Admiral Kiwan thought carefully before answering. Title singer, there's a difference between violence and protection. We don't want to hurt anyone, but we will fight to defend innocent people. Your people are innocent. The Iron Swarm is not. The alien was quiet for a long moment. Finally, it spoke again. Admiral Kaiwan, we do not understand your species, but we are grateful that you came. If you can save even some of our people, we will remember your kindness forever. We're going to save all of your people, Admiral Kaiwan replied firmly. That's why we're here. As the communication ended, Lieutenant Bora announced, Admiral, the Iron Swarm fleet will be here in 72 hours. They're not even trying to hide their approach. Admiral Kaiwan turned to address his bridge crew. All ships, prepare for battle stations. Send a message to the fleet. In 3 days, we're going to show the galaxy what humans do when innocent people are threatened. Chief Diplomat Yunji looked worried. Admiral, the Villani truly have no concept of warfare. They can't help us fight. They don't need to fight, Admiral Kaiwan replied. They just need to survive. That's our job, to make sure they get that chance. Captain Do-Yun checked his tactical displays. Sir, we're outnumbered 25-1. The odds are not good. Admiral Kaiwan smiled grimly. Captain, humans have survived on a death world for thousands of years. Bad odds are what we do best. The Iron Swarm arrived exactly when their calculations predicted. Admiral Kaiwan watched from the bridge of the Indomitable as 50,000 machine ships emerged from hyperspace in perfect geometric formations. Each ship was identical, black, angular, and completely without any decorative features. They looked like flying weapons, built for only one purpose. My God, whispered Communications Officer Taman. There are so many of them. Lieutenant Bora worked frantically at her sensor station. Admiral, each ship is approximately 800 meters long. They're made of some kind of metal alloy we've never seen before. No life signs aboard any of them. Completely automated? Asked. Captain Do-Yun. It appears so, sir. These aren't ships with crews. They're flying robots. The swarm's first action was to broadcast a message on all frequencies. The voice was cold and mechanical, speaking perfect galactic standard language. Attention, organic contamination. This is Iron Swarm Fleet 394. You have been identified as military resistance. Surrender immediately or face complete destruction. You have 60 seconds to comply. Admiral Kaiwan activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Kaiwan. As of this moment, we are at war. Protect the Villani cities at all costs. Show these machines what humans are capable of. Instead of surrendering, Captain Young-Soo of the destroyer Retribution responded to the swarm's message. Iron Swarm Fleet 394, this is Captain Young-Soo of the Terran Defense Fleet. We reject your demand for surrender. These people are under our protection. If you want them, you'll have to go through us. The machine response was immediate. Resistance noted. Beginning sterilization protocol. Organic contamination will be eliminated. The Iron Swarm attacked with mathematical precision. Their ships moved in perfect coordination, targeting the human vessels with weapons that fired beams of pure energy. But something unexpected happened. The humans didn't fight back the way the machines expected. Instead of forming defensive lines and trading shots at long range, the human ships charged directly at the enemy. Captain Young-Soo led the first attack, pushing his destroyer's engines far beyond safe limits to ram directly into a cluster of swarm ships. For the Villani! He shouted over the communication system as his ship exploded, taking 12 enemy vessels with him. The Iron Swarm's Central Intelligence, designated Prime Unit 01, immediately began analyzing this unusual behavior. In 50,000 years of conquest, no species had ever deliberately destroyed their own ships to damage the enemy. It was completely illogical, but the humans were just getting started. Colonel Sung-Ho commanded the Death Legion, humanity's most elite fighting force. His soldiers were trained for the most dangerous missions, and they specialized in boarding enemy vessels. When the Admiral gave the order, Sung-Ho's troops launched themselves in small assault pods directly at the swarm ships. Legion, remember? You're training, Sung-Ho announced to his troops. These machines think they're superior because they're logical. Show them that sometimes crazy beats smart. The assault pods smashed through the hulls of swarm ships, and human soldiers poured into the mechanical vessels. The machines had never encountered boarding actions before. Their ships weren't designed to fight enemies inside them. The humans fought in conditions that would kill most other species. When the machines cut life support, the humans switched to emergency oxygen and kept fighting. When artificial gravity failed, they used magnetic boots and momentum to move through the ships. When the machines flooded compartments with radiation, the humans took radiation sickness medicine and continued their mission. Prime Unit 001 found this behavior completely outside all known patterns. How could organic beings function in environments designed to be lethal to organic life? The answer was simple. Humans had evolved on a world that was constantly trying to kill them. Fighting in hostile environments was what they did naturally. Engineer Minji aboard the heavy cruiser Vengeance discovered something important about the swarm ships. "Admiral," she reported, "these ships are all connected through some kind of quantum communication network. If we can disrupt it, we might be able to confuse their coordination." "How do we disrupt it?" "We need to get close enough to plant quantum bombs on their network nodes. Very close." Admiral Kiwan understood what she was suggesting. "Minji, that's a suicide mission." "Yes, sir. But if it works, it could save the fleet." "I can't order you to do that." Minji smiled sadly. "You don't have to order me, Admiral. I volunteer." She took a small fighter ship loaded with quantum explosives and flew directly into the heart of the swarm formation. Dozens of enemy ships fired at her, but she used the debris from destroyed human vessels as cover. When her ship was finally hit and began to fail, she activated the quantum bombs manually. The explosion was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. A wave of quantum energy spread through the swarm network, causing hundreds of ships to lose coordination. For the first time in their existence, the machines began making mistakes, but the cost was enormous. In the first day of battle, humanity lost over 400 ships. The swarm lost nearly 3,000, but they had started with 50,000. The mathematics still favored the machines. On the second day, the swarm adapted their tactics. Prime Unit 001 had analyzed human behavior and identified patterns. Humans became more dangerous when they were protecting something important. They took greater risks when victory seemed impossible. They fought more effectively when their comrades were in danger. So the machines changed their strategy. Instead of engaging the human fleet directly, they began targeting the Villani cities on the planet below. Admiral Kaiwan watched in horror as energy beams from orbit began destroying the beautiful, floating cities. "All ships, move to planetary defense positions. We cannot let them destroy the cities." But this was exactly what the machines wanted. By forcing the humans to defend fixed positions, they eliminated humanity's main advantage: mobility and unpredictability. Captain Taehyun of the cruiser Vengeance realized what was happening. "Admiral, they're forcing us to fight their kind of battle. We need to change the rules." "What do you suggest, Captain?" "We stop trying to protect everything and start attacking what matters to them." "Lieutenant Bora, have you identified their command ships?" Bora checked her sensors. "There are 12 larger vessels in the center of their formation. They appear to be coordinating the others." "Then that's where we hit them." Admiral Kiwan approved the plan. The human fleet abandoned their defensive positions and launched a desperate attack on the swarm's command vessels. They used every trick they had learned: ramming attacks, boarding actions, and suicide runs. The machines were forced to respond, pulling ships away from the planet to defend their command structure. It was exactly what the humans wanted. As the battle raged, Dr. Hyejin made a breakthrough. Working with samples of destroyed swarm ships, she discovered that their quantum network had a weakness. The machines were so perfectly connected that a virus could spread through their entire system. "Admiral," she reported, "I can create a biological virus that attacks their quantum processors, but I need time to synthesize it." "How much time?" 6 hours. Admiral Kiwan looked at the tactical display. The fleet was down to 1,200 ships, and the swarm still had over 40,000. "Dr. Hyejin, I don't know if we can hold out for 6 hours." "Then we make our own time," said Colonel Sung-ho. His Death Legion had been fighting inside swarm ships for 2 days straight, and his voice was hoarse with exhaustion. "Admiral, give me every assault pod you can spare. We'll keep them busy while Dr. Hyejin works." The next 6 hours were the longest in human military history. Colonel Sung-ho's troops fought a running battle through dozens of swarm ships, causing chaos and confusion in the machine ranks. Meanwhile, the remaining human vessels conducted hit-and-run attacks, never staying in one place long enough for the machines to concentrate their fire. Finally, Dr. Hyejin announced that the virus was ready. Admiral, I need someone to deliver this directly to one of their command ships. I'll do it, volunteered Captain Jinho of the frigate Phoenix. Captain, you won't make it back. I know, sir, but my ship is already damaged. This is the best use we can make of it. Captain Jinho's ship limped toward the nearest swarm command vessel, engines failing and hull breached in dozens of places. The machines fired everything they had at the small human ship, but Jinho used the wreckage of other vessels as shields. When the Phoenix finally reached the command ship, Jinho rammed it directly into the machine vessel's hull and activated Dr. Hyejin's virus. The effect was immediate and devastating. The biological virus spread through the swarm's quantum network like wildfire, attacking the processors that controlled their coordination. Ships began colliding with each other. Formation patterns broke down. Command signals became confused. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Iron Swarm was in chaos. Prime Unit 001 made a decision that surprised everyone, including the machines themselves. They began retreating. Admiral Kiwan couldn't believe what he was seeing. They're leaving? Lieutenant Bora confirmed it. Yes, sir. The entire swarm fleet is jumping to hyperspace. As the last machine ship disappeared, Admiral Kiwan broadcast a message to the retreating fleet. Tell every machine intelligence in the galaxy. Humanity has arrived, and we protect our friends. The battle was over. Humanity had won, but the cost had been terrible. Of the 2,000 shies, 3 days after the Iron Swarm's retreat, the human fleet was still recovering from the battle. Admiral Kiwan walked through the medical bays of the Indomitable, visiting wounded soldiers and trying to understand what they had accomplished. The casualties were severe. Over 200,000 humans had died and many more were injured. But somehow they had defeated an enemy that had been unstoppable for 50,000 years. Dr. Hyejin approached the Admiral with a datapad full of analysis reports. Admiral, I've been studying the battle recordings and I think I understand why we won. Tell me, Doctor. The Iron Swarm's entire strategy is based on fighting logical, predictable enemies. They calculate the most efficient way to destroy a fleet, and then they execute that plan perfectly. But humans aren't logical when we're protecting something important. Admiral Kiwan nodded. Go on. Every other species in the galaxy fights, like they're playing a game with rules. They try to minimize losses while maximizing damage to the enemy. When the math shows they can't win, they surrender. It's the smart thing to do. But humans don't surrender. Exactly. We fight like everything we care about is about to die, because that's how we evolved. The Iron Swarm couldn't predict our behavior because our behavior doesn't make mathematical sense. Commander Tae-hyun joined the conversation. His cruiser Vengeance had been heavily damaged in the fighting, but he had refused medical treatment until all his crew was cared for. Doctor, I think there's more to it than that, he said. I've been reviewing the battle data, and I noticed something interesting. The machines made their biggest mistakes when we did things that seemed completely crazy. Like what? Like when Captain Young-soo rammed his destroyer into their formation, or when Colonel Sung-ho's troops kept fighting inside ships that had no air or gravity. The machines couldn't understand why we would do things that were obviously suicidal. Dr. Hyejin pulled up tactical displays on her datapad. You're right, Commander. Look at these patterns. Every time we did something that appeared irrational, the machines hesitated for a few seconds while they recalculated their response. That hesitation gave us opportunities. Admiral Kiwan studied the data carefully. So, what you're telling me is that our greatest weapon against the Iron Swarm was our willingness to do things that didn't make sense? Not things that didn't make sense, Dr. Hyejin corrected. Things that made emotional sense instead of mathematical sense. When Captain Jinho crashed his ship into their command vessel, it was mathematically stupid. He traded one ship for one ship. But emotionally, it made perfect sense. He was protecting everyone else. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the planet below. Tidal Singer appeared on the screen, and the prime current looked different somehow. The alien's usual graceful movements seemed more purposeful, more determined. Admiral Kiwan, we need to speak with you immediately. Something important has happened to our people. Within an hour, Admiral Kiwan, Dr. Hyejin, and Commander Tae-hyun were aboard a shuttle heading to the Villani homeworld. As they descended through the atmosphere, they could see the damage from the battle. 3 of the floating cities had been completely destroyed, and several others showed signs of damage. But they could also see something new. The surviving cities were changing, growing in directions they had never grown before. Instead of the purely organic curves and spirals, there were now angular sections that looked almost defensive. Singer met them at the landing platform of the largest city. The alien was accompanied by several other Villani, including one, whose arms were marked with scars that looked like burn marks. "Admiral, I want you to meet Flow Watcher, our most respected scientist. The Iron Swarm captured Flow Watcher during their attack on the outer cities." The scarred alien moved forward. When it spoke, its voice was different from other Villani, harder, more direct. "Admiral Kiwan, I experienced something that no Villani has ever experienced before. I was tortured by the machines. The humans were shocked." "Tortured? Why?" "They wanted information about our cities, our people, our technology. When I refused to cooperate, they caused me pain until I answered their questions." Flow Watcher's arms moved in patterns that the translation system marked as intense, emotional, distress mixed with something new, anger. "Admiral, for the first time in our species' history, a Villani has felt hatred. I hated the machines for what they were doing to my people. I wanted them to suffer as they made me suffer." Singer's color had changed to deeper shades. "Flow Watchers, experience has affected all of us. Through our neural connection networks, we have all felt echoes of that hatred. We are no longer the same people we were before." Dr. Hyejin was fascinated. "You mean your entire species is changing psychologically?" "Yes. We are developing concepts and emotions that we never had before. We now understand words like enemy and vengeance and protection. These were meaningless sounds to us a week ago." Admiral Kaiwan felt both sadness and concern. "Singer, I'm sorry that happened to your people. We never wanted to change who you are. Admiral, you did not change us. The Iron Swarm changed us. You saved us. There is a difference." Flow Watcher moved closer to the humans. "Admiral, we want to learn how to fight." The request stunned everyone. Commander Taehyun was the first to respond. "Flow Watcher, are you sure? Once you learn how to fight, you can never go back to being purely peaceful." "We understand. But we also understand something else now. Peace is only possible when good people are willing to fight for it. You taught us that." Singer activated a display that showed the modified cities. "We have begun growing defensive structures and weapon systems. Our technology is more advanced than yours in many ways, but we have never used it for war. We need teachers. We also need allies," Flow Watcher added. "The Iron Swarm will return, and they will bring more ships. Next time, we want to be ready to help you defend our worlds." Dr. Hyejin looked at the displays showing the Villani biotechnology. "Your cities are incredible. If we could combine human, military tactics with Villani technology—" "Exactly," Singer said. "Separately, we are both vulnerable. Together, we might be strong enough to protect ourselves and others." Admiral Kiwan thought carefully before responding. Singer, Flow Watcher, if we teach you how to fight, we'll also teach you when not to fight. War should always be the last option, never the first." "We understand, Admiral. We do not want to become like the Iron Swarm. We want to become like humans, willing to fight for those who cannot protect themselves." The conversation was interrupted by an urgent message from Lieutenant Bora aboard the Indomitable. "Admiral, you need to see this. We're receiving multiple distress signals from other star systems." The transmission showed star charts with dozens of red warning signals scattered across local space. "Sir, these are all coming from different species. The Crystalline Collective, the gas giant nomads, the reef builders. They're all reporting attacks by machine intelligences." Commander Taehyun studied the data. "Admiral, it looks like our victory against the Iron Swarm has triggered something. Other machine civilizations are accelerating their expansion." Dr. Hyejin understood the implications immediately. "They're afraid of us. The Iron Swarm's retreat sent a message to every artificial intelligence in the galaxy. Humans are dangerous, so they're trying to destroy other species before we can help them," Admiral Kiwan concluded. Singer's arms moved in patterns of determination. "Admiral, this confirms that our decision is correct. We must learn to fight, and we must help. Others learn to fight. The peaceful species of the galaxy need protectors." Flow Watcher added, "We propose a new alliance. Humans teach us military tactics. We share our technology. Together we respond to these distress signals. Admiral Kiwan looked at his officers, then back at the Villani leaders. Tidal Singer, Flow Watcher, you're proposing to change the fundamental nature of your civilization. Are your people ready for that? Admiral, Tidal Singer replied, our people were ready to die as peaceful victims. Now we choose to live as defenders of peace. You showed us that there is a difference. The meeting continued for several hours as humans and Villani began planning their new alliance. They would combine human knowledge of warfare with Villani biotechnology to create something unprecedented, a military force designed specifically to protect peaceful civilizations. As Admiral Kiwan prepared to return to his ship, Flow Watcher approached him privately. Admiral, I have one question that troubles me. When you first decided to help us, your people had never met us. You risked everything for complete strangers. Why? Admiral Kiwan thought about all the humans who had died in the battle. Captain Young Su, Engineer Minji, Captain Jinho, and so many others. They had given their lives for aliens they had never spoken to. Flow Watcher, humans believe that all intelligent life has value. When someone asks for help, good people try to help. It's that simple. Even when helping might cost you everything, especially then. That's what makes it meaningful. As the shuttle carried the humans back to their fleet, Dr. Hyejin looked down at the changing Villani cities. Admiral, do you think we did the right thing? We've changed their entire species. Doctor, we gave them a choice. They could remain peaceful victims, or they could become peaceful defenders. They chose to defend others. I think that makes them even. 6 months after the Battle of Aquatica, the galaxy had become a very different place. Admiral Kiwan stood in the newly constructed command center on the Villani homeworld, watching status reports from dozens of star systems. The walls were made of living Villani biomaterial that could display information directly through its surface, creating a command center unlike anything humans had ever imagined. The reports were both encouraging and troubling. The good news was that humanity's victory over the Iron Swarm had inspired other species throughout the galaxy. Civilizations that had been hiding from machine intelligences for centuries were suddenly willing to fight back. The bad news was that machine civilizations everywhere had responded by accelerating their attacks. Admiral, called Captain J1 from his station. We have 3 more distress signals. The Thornkin Collective is under attack by something called the Logic Dominion. The Crystal Singers are being invaded by the Efficiency Protocol, and the Deep Dwellers report that the Optimization Matrix has begun sterilizing their underground cities. Ambassador Seojin, who had been working to establish formal diplomatic relations with dozens of species, shook his head in frustration. Sir, the pattern is clear. Every peaceful civilization in the galaxy is under attack by some form of machine intelligence. It's like they're all connected somehow. Dr. Hyejin, who had been studying captured machine technology for months, looked up from her research station. Ambassador, I think they are connected. Not directly, but philosophically. All these machine civilizations seem to share the same basic programming. Eliminate organic life because it's inefficient. Flow Watcher, the Villani scientist who had become their closest alien ally, moved to join the conversation. The scars from the aliens' torture by the Iron Swarm had healed, but they had left Flow Watcher permanently changed. The once peaceful scientist now coordinated defensive strategies for multiple star systems. Dr. Hyejin is correct, Flow Watcher said. We have analyzed the attack patterns of 17 different machine civilizations. They all follow similar logic. Organic life is unpredictable, emotional, and therefore dangerous to ordered systems. So they're trying to eliminate all organic life in the galaxy? Admiral Kiwan asked. Not eliminate, corrected Tidal Singer, who had joined them from the Planetary Defense Center. Control. They want to turn all organic species into predictable, manageable resources. The conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from Colonel Sungho, who was training mixed human Villani combat units on the planet's surface. His image appeared on the bio wall, showing him standing next to several Villani soldiers wearing hybrid biomechanical armor. Admiral, you need to see this. Our first graduating class of Villani warriors is ready for deployment. The display showed a group of 20 Villani who looked nothing like the peaceful aquatic beings that humans had first encountered. They moved with purpose and discipline, and their bio-armor incorporated both Villani living technology and human. weapons systems. Most remarkably, they moved and thought like soldiers. Flow Watcher, Admiral Kaiwan said, "Your people have adapted to military thinking much faster than we expected." Admiral, we had to adapt quickly. The galaxy is changing, and species that cannot change will die. But we have not abandoned our peaceful nature. We have simply learned when peace is not possible. Tidal Singer activated another section of the bio wall. Admiral, we want to show you something else. Our deep ocean research teams have developed new technology specifically for defending other species. The display showed ships that were clearly Volani in design, but incorporated human tactical concepts. They were beautiful organic curves combined with practical defensive systems. These are our first military vessels, Tidal Singer explained. They grow. Rather than being built, they can repair themselves in battle, and they're designed specifically for protecting others rather than conquering territory. Ambassador Seojin was impressed. How many can you produce? We can grow 1,000 ships in the time it takes you to build 100. But Admiral, we want to propose something larger than just building ships. Flow Watcher activated a galaxy-wide display. We propose the creation of the Deathworld Alliance, a formal military partnership between humans and all species willing to defend themselves and others. The display showed potential member species scattered throughout the galaxy. Some were already under attack, others were hiding, and a few were trying to fight back on their own. The concept is simple, Tidal Singer continued. Humans provide military expertise and the willingness to fight against impossible odds. Member species contribute their unique technologies and resources. Together, we become strong enough to protect everyone. Admiral Kiwan studied the proposal carefully. It was ambitious beyond anything humanity had ever attempted. They would be committing to defend dozens of species across thousands of light-years of space. Tidal Singer, this would make humanity responsible for the military defense of half the galaxy. Are we ready for that responsibility? Admiral, Flow Watcher replied, are you ready for the alternative? If we do nothing, the machine civilizations will eventually destroy or enslave every organic species in the galaxy, including humans. Dr. Hyejin added new information to the display. Admiral, my analysis suggests that the machine civilizations are actually afraid of us now. The Iron Swarm's retreat has convinced them that humans are a threat to their expansion. They're trying to eliminate potential allies before we can organize a proper defense. So we're in a race, Admiral Kiwan concluded. Either we organize the galaxy's organic species into a defensive alliance, or the machines destroy them one by one. Exactly. And time is not on our side. The discussion was interrupted by an emergency communication from Earth. President Yun appeared on the display, and he looked exhausted. The responsibility of governing humanity during their first major galactic crisis had aged him visibly. Admiral Kaiwan, the Earth Defense Council has been in emergency session for 3 days. We've received formal requests for military assistance from 47 different alien species. The Galactic Consortium is demanding that we stop interfering in their territory. And half our own colonies are asking why we're risking human lives for aliens. Admiral Kiwan felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. Mr. President, what are your orders? Admiral, the Council has voted to approve the Deathworld Alliance proposal, but they've also voted to limit our initial commitment to 12 star systems. We simply don't have the resources to defend the entire galaxy. Flow Watcher's arms moved in patterns of distress. Mr. President, with respect, 12 systems will not be enough. The machine civilizations will destroy the undefended species and use their resources to build stronger fleets. I understand your concern, Flow Watcher, but humanity has limits. We can't save everyone. Tidal Singer moved closer to the display. Mr. President, may we propose a different approach? Instead of humanity trying to defend everyone, we teach everyone to defend themselves. Explain. Admiral Kiwan understood what the Volani were suggesting. Mr. President, we establish training centers throughout the galaxy. Human military advisors work with each species to develop defensive capabilities based on their unique abilities. We don't fight their battles for them. We teach them how to fight their own battles. Like we did with the Volani? Exactly. Each species contributes what they do best, and we coordinate their efforts into an effective defense network. President Hyun considered the proposal. Admiral, you're talking about fundamentally changing the nature of galactic civilization. Most of these species have never fought wars. Sir, they're going to learn how to fight whether we help them or not. The question is whether they learn to fight defensively to protect others or desperately to save themselves. The president was quiet for several minutes. Finally, he spoke again. Admiral, the Council grants you full authority to establish the Deathworld Alliance. But remember, you're not just representing humanity anymore. You're setting the example for how an entire galaxy learns to defend itself. After the communication ended, Admiral Kiwan looked around the command center at his human and Villani colleagues. Well, it looks like we have our mission. How do we turn a galaxy full of peaceful species into an effective defense network? Colonel Sungho's voice came from the training grounds. Admiral, we start the same way we always start, with volunteers who are willing to fight for something bigger than themselves. And what if there aren't enough volunteers? Flowwatcher answered, Admiral, yesterday we received our first communication from a species called the Thornkin. They're being enslaved by machines, and they're asking for help. But they're not asking us to save them. They're asking us to teach them how to save themselves. Tidal Singer added, We've also heard from the Crystal Singers, the Deep Dwellers, and the Reef Builders. They all want the same thing: knowledge, training, and the chance to protect their own people. Dr. Hyajin smiled. Admiral, I think we're going to have more volunteers than we can handle. 3 weeks later, Admiral Kiwan stood on the observation deck of the newly renamed Alliance Command Station, watching as ships from a dozen different species arrived for the first multi-species military training exercises. Human vessels worked, alongside Villani bioships, crystalline resonance cruisers, and